Hello! At the second attempt, had a bit of a microphone issue there at the first time, but hopefully you can all hear me loud and clear now, which is good. So this would normally be the Golf Week That Was podcast where we would talk about the previous week's golf. Let me just get rid of that. We are live. Well, this week we're doing a bit different. We're going to actually have a Masters preview show because it's a very special week. The US Masters is probably the most exciting week in the golfing calendar, I'd say. So we're just going to be totally talking about the Masters in this week's podcast. So we're going to be talking about the course changes, which is mainly the 13th. We are going to be talking about the favourites. We're going to be talking about the 18 live golfers that are taking part, because that's really is a very, very different dynamic this year. And then I want to know who your winner is at the end, your outsider, and your best each way bet as well. And then I have actually had a few bets this year, and I'll tell you who I have put my money on this year, and you might be a little bit surprised. Obviously trying to look for a little bit of value, but we'll get into that near the end. So just a little bit of housekeeping, which I always do. I've got some great videos coming this week. Tomorrow I've got a ball review, a premium golf ball that I guarantee that you have never heard of, which I was absolutely astonished at the performance of. So keep an eye out for that. It's going live at 1 o'clock tomorrow. And also in April, I've got 2 new series coming, which is doing stuff that I don't think has been done on YouTube before. If it has, I've not been able to find it. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, there might be a reason why no one's done it before, but we'll see. But I think it's going to be great. So I've not filmed it yet, so the idea is in my head. I've worked out how I'm going to do it. Obviously, once I've filmed it and I've looked, then we'll see what it looks like. My golf week, the weather's been finally getting a little bit better here in the UK. So I'm playing my first competition on Saturday, which always feels like it's a bit of a lottery. I wouldn't normally start my competition rounds this early because the course is getting better, but it's still in kind of winter condition. The greens are getting better, like I say, but they're certainly not good enough where you're going to be expecting to hold good putts. There's going to be a little bit of luck involved. But if I'm going to get back down to 0.4 to enter Senior Open qualifying again this year, I've got to do that before the first week in May. And I need at least 1 really good score or 2 really steady scores to do that. I don't have to shoot the lights out to do it, but I haven't got much time, so I need to start playing the comp. So we're going to give it a go. So we're going to start. Obviously, it's Masters Week. It is incredibly exciting. There's no other course like it in the world, is there? End of story. It looks like the weather's going to play a big part in it this year, which I always think is a shame. I always like Augusta when it's baked hard and playing really tough. But it looks like there's going to be quite a lot of rain and it's going to be softened up and it's going to be a bit of wind as well. So not good news for old Tiger for sure. So let's start by talking about the Augusta course changes. And the big one, obviously, is the 13th. So I'm get into the comments and let me know whether you agree with the change at 13. I've got all the stats here. It's been made 35 yards longer. The tee's gone back by 35 yards. And the tee has also gone up 8 feet higher in elevation. So that will set off the 35 yards a little bit with a little bit of extra carry. But at the end of the day, 8 feet isn't a great deal. But in last year's Masters, the 13th had an average of 4.85, so it was playing quite well under its par, and it was the 3rd easiest hole on the course. Now, when I first started watching the Masters, that was a real risk and reward hole. It was full of jeopardy if anyone was going for it in 2. And I've just been watching some of the coverage there on the UK coverage with Sky, and they've just had Nick Faldo on, and he was talking about when he won the Masters in, I think it was when he won in '96. It might have been, or it might have been his second Masters win. I'm not sure, but anyway, he had to hit a 2-iron off a hanging lie, a downhill side lie, hitting a 2-iron. It was like an absolutely blinking ballsy shot. But you just in recent years, that hole's just been reduced to a a drive and a mid iron for these guys, and that's never how the hole was actually, designed to play. So I am in actual agreement with this change. Now, whether they've gone too far, and it actually just means that almost everyone's going to lay up, and we're not going to get that jeopardy of people going for it in two, because they've actually, gone back a little bit too far. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, they were probably designing it and putting it that far back, thinking that it was going to be quite hard and bouncy, and there'd be quite a lot of run on the fairways, but that's not going to be the case. It's going to be really soft. So I think it's going to be two big hits for these guys to get up on this green in two. So I think we are going to see a lot of people laying up, which is going to make it a little bit more boring. Would I be right in saying that? I think if not many are going for it in two, then it is going to be, not quite as exciting when people are playing that hole. But they can't do anything about the weather, but it will be interesting. One thing I was disappointed to hear was quite a lot of the players saying, well, if I've got more than a 5-iron, I'm just going to lay up. Back in the day, the Faldos, the Ballesteruses, even the Ernie L's and, that sort of generation, they didn't think twice about pulling, Lee Trevino, going back even further, your Lee Trevinos and your Arnold Palmers and your Jack Nicklaus's, they didn't even think twice about pulling out a little tiny-headed persimmon 3-wood to knock it on that green in two. And these guys are saying, if I've got more than a 5-iron, I'm going to lay up. Come on, that's not right, surely. Let's see some players with a bit of cojones and actually giving it a good go. So, I'll be interested to see what your thoughts are on the 13th, whether you think it's going to be a good move, whether it's actually going to be a little bit boring this year because, like I say, not many people are going to go for the green in two. So let's get on to the favourites. I suppose we have to start with Rory McIlroy because he is obviously, in this long pursuit of the Grand Slam. I have to say that every other year that I've seen him turn up, I've always just felt like he wasn't going to do it. He just felt like he was putting himself under far too much pressure, or even the media was putting him under too much pressure. And it just felt like he was just, not going to get over the line. I know he's recruited Bob Rotella, the world famous golf psychologist, to try and help him deal with that, which I'm sure has definitely made a difference. But I do feel that this year there does seem to be just a little bit of a different aura about him. He does seem to be, I don't know whether it's a confidence thing or whether he's just become more at peace with the fact that, he may not win a US Masters and it's not the be-all and end-all and he's not putting himself under as much pressure. Bob Rotella will definitely be telling him that for sure. From reading his books, it's all of his stuff is all about not getting in your way, getting out of your way and just letting yourself perform, just letting you go into automatic mode and just play. So, but I have to say his demeanour and his press conferences and seeing him on the range and stuff, he just seemed to have a little bit of a different approach to him this year. So I actually think that this year Rory is definitely going to be right in the mix. But at 6-1 favourite with Scotty Scheffler, I won't be putting any money on him for sure. Scotty Scheffler obviously going for back-to-back wins. Everyone knows how hard that is. It's only ever been done 3 times. Jack Nicklaus, Nick Faldo, and Tiger Woods. Can Scotty Scheffler do it? Yeah, absolutely he can. No question about it. He's in form. He's playing well. It's just a case of whether the enormity of defending means that he doesn't quite perform to his best. I don't know. He doesn't seem like the sort of person who kind of gets affected by that too much, to be honest. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's definitely in the mix, but it's quite a big ask for him to defend. And Scotty's 6-1 favourite with Rory. So third favourite is Jon Rahm at 8-1. Now, all the ingredients for Jon Rahm to win the US Masters are there. He hits it long. He hits it right to left, which is definitely an advantage at Augusta National. He's got a good short game. His putting is a little bit streaky, but when it's on, it's really on. And he absolutely stripes his iron. So there's the whole game is there for Jon Rahm, and it's kind of surprising that really he's not been really in the mix that many times in the the previous times that he's played in the Masters at Augusta. So, but he was absolutely hot as a rocket, wasn't he? At the start of the year, but he's had a little bit of a dip in his last 3 tournaments, not had very good results. So it'll be interesting to see whether I think this is true for all of the players. You need to get off to a good start, and that's been Rory's problem, hasn't it? He's been shooting 74s and 75s in the first round, and then coming back and finishing on the first page of the leaderboard, but just leaving himself far too much to do. He needs I'm not saying he needs a 65 or anything, but he just needs a nice 68, 69 just to get him off on the right foot, get him right in the mix sort of thing. And I feel like Jon Rahm needs that as well, just because he's been a little bit out of form recently. I think if he shoots a good first round, then he'll be up and running. After that, I was quite surprised actually that joint fourth favourite is Patrick Cantlay. I mean, he's a good player, don't get me wrong, but I was kind of surprised that he was joint fourth favourite with Jordan Spieth. Jordan Spieth, his record suggests that he's always going to be a contender at Augusta National. He's got an absolutely phenomenal record. He's definitely got some scar tissue, for sure, which I think does play a part as you play in these more and more and get a little bit older. So, if he gets right in the mix again on Sunday and steps on the 12th tee, I think he will be getting a bit of the heebie-jeebies again. And that's nothing against Jordan Spieth. That's just natural. That's just human nature. Justin Thomas is next at 18-1. He's definitely out of form. I might regret saying this, but I don't see Justin Thomas contending this year. He's just not really been showing any kind of consistent form at all. Tony Finau is then 20-1, and then you've got the first live golfer, Dustin Johnson, and Xander Schauffele at 22-1. So when I'm looking to put a bet on, I'm never really looking at these guys. I'm looking for obviously a little bit of value. So I'll get on to who I've actually put my money on for the week. But let's just quickly, while we're talking about DJ, Justin Johnson, let's just talk about the 18 live golfers that are taking part at Augusta this year. Now, this is adding a completely new dynamic to the tournament this year. Greg Norman, in typical Greg Norman style, has stirred the pot again. I think he's just got to wind his neck in. You know what I mean? He's not doing anyone, and certainly not his own tour and his own players, any favours. Because he came out with, I think he put it in a tweet, or he certainly put it out via some kind of media source that if a live golfer wins, then all 18 live golfers will be round the green to support him, as a show of solidarity sort of thing. But when Cameron Smith was asked about that in his press conference, it was news to him. He said he hadn't been told that. And I saw an interview with Dustin Johnson where he said the same thing. So I don't know what Greg Norman's doing there. He seems to have said something without actually consulting the players that he was talking about, which it does seem very odd. But, there are 18 live golfers taking part. For me, they're all, you're not a top golfer if you're playing in the US Masters. It's as simple as that. You've either qualified as a past champion, so I suppose you could be past your best as a past champion and still playing in it, and that may apply to some of the live golfers, because live golfers does have 6 past champions, who are Phil Mickelson, Charles Schwartzel, Bubba Watson, Sergio Garcia, Patrick Reed, and Dustin Johnson. And then all the rest of them have either qualified through being current major champions that have got them, an exemption, because you get a 5-year exemption in a lot of majors for winning a major. So like Bryson DeChambeau will still be getting in off his US Open win. Cameron Smith gets in because of his Open Championship win. And then the rest of them qualify through the official World Golf Ranking. So, all of these players on the LIV Tour, they deserve to be there for sure. But, as far as any of them actually winning, I would say Dustin Johnson and Cameron Smith definitely have got a chance to win. Again, Cameron Smith is definitely out of form going into this. He's been playing all right on the Live Tour. He's been shooting some good scores. He's been under par, but he's not been in the mix to win those tournaments whatsoever. Dustin Johnson's been playing well. He's been, there or thereabouts without actually really contending for the wins in the 3 live events so far. But he's been right up there on the first page of the leaderboard, and his team's been doing well, and he's been playing a part in that. So Dustin's definitely playing well. The one that kind of stands out to me is Brooks Koepka, and there's a number of reasons for this. One is obviously he won the last live event in Orlando, but I think the bigger sort of picture there is what he is saying, and he's saying that for the first time in such a long time, he's completely injury free. His body is not getting in the way of him performing with his golf swing. And, we mustn't forget that, in the past, when that was the case for Brooks Koepka, before he had all these injury problems, he was a major winning machine, So he won last week. He's obviously playing well. He's obviously confident. He's saying that he's as healthy as he's been for a very long time. So I would say that Brooks Koepka could possibly be Live Golf's best chance of a winner this week. Let me know what you think. Do you think out of Brooks, Dustin, you can't write off Patrick Reed either because, as much as everyone hates him and he's very unpopular with fans and players, certainly on the PGA Tour side, he's a good golfer and he rises to the occasion. If you think about when he, in Dubai, when, nobody wanted him there, from the tournament to the fans to the players, yet he managed to just put that all to one side and nearly win the tournament. He came second only to Rory McIlroy. So you can't rule out Patrick Reed, but I think Brooks Koepka, Cameron Smith, Dustin Johnson, Patrick Reed, I would say that they're probably the best chance. Mito Pereira played well in the last live event. He's obviously playing well, and he was one drive away from winning a major with the PGA Championship last year. But again, I just don't. The thing is, you've got to have an absolutely razor sharp short game to score around Augusta. You're not going to hit every green in regulation. You are going to get on the wrong side of holes. You do need to have an amazing short game, and I'm just not sure whether Mito Pereira's got a short game that's good enough, really. The rest of them, Taylor Gooch, Louis Oosthuizen, Kevin Na, Jason Kokrak, Harold Varner III, Thomas Pizzas, Abraham Ancer, Joaquin Niemann, Mito Pereira, Bryson DeChambeau. Bryson's still struggling with getting his swing right after his wrist surgery, so I don't see him contending. Sergio Garcia, I actually thought that he might be able to sort of rise to the occasion, but he played absolutely terrible last week in Orlando, so he's got to really turn his form around. Bubba Watson's coming back from an injury, so I don't think he is quite there yet. And Phil Mickelson, although he has shown some shoots of recovery just recently, and for sure Augusta will definitely get his competitive juices going, I just don't feel that his game is anywhere near being good enough as well. So yeah, for me, Brooks, Cameron Smith, Dustin Johnson and Patrick Reed are the 4 best chances for Liv to contend this week. And you can get good odds on pretty much all of those. Cameron Smith I've not got him down here, but he was obviously outside of 22-1 because I went down the betting down to Dustin Johnson and Xander Schauffele at 22-1. So Cameron Smith, was obviously outside of that. So you can get good odds on him. Brooks Koepka was 50-1 last time I looked. 40-1. So yeah, he was 50-1 previously. He's come down to 40-1. So obviously there's been a bit of money on Brooks because his odds have come down slightly. So there are some value there if you do fancy any of the live golfers. I've been watching a lot of the coverage, and Paul McGinley and Brandel Chambly. You've got to caveat that they are massively PGA Tour bias. There's no getting away from that. But their honest opinion is that the Live Tour does not keep these guys sharp enough and competitive enough to turn up at a major event and be able to contend with the PGA Tour guys who've obviously been playing in a lot stronger fields and playing against each other more regularly, like the Rorys, the Scotty Schefflers, and the John Rahms and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see whether they're right on that. According to them, they're not expecting any of these live golfers to contend for the title, which I think is a little bit naive, really. There's absolutely no question that Cameron Smith, Dustin Johnson, Patrick Reed, and Brooks Koepka can contend for this US Masters. There's no reason why any of the others can't either if they're on the game. Obviously there's people like Kevin Na and people like that who, probably never got close to contending for a major before. So, you're not going to expect them to do it this time. But, for me, I do think that Scotty, Rory, John Rahm, Cantley, Spieth's, Tony Finau's got all of the ingredients in his game to contend. I do agree that they are. It's obviously a lot more likely that a PGA Tour player is going to win than a Live Tour player, and that's on numerical advantage. But also, I think there is a little bit of truth in what McGinley and Chambly were saying. Those guys are going to be that little bit sharper, probably, but I still don't think you can rule out some of these live golfers whatsoever. So I've got some comments in. Kent Nicholson, hi Kent, nice to see you again. Are we back? Yeah, sorry about that, mate. The microphone, I didn't check the microphone before we started. Usually it's plug and play. It should just work. But anyway. Kent, I'd love Rory to do it. I just don't think he has it in him. Like I say, I agree with that. But this year, I honestly think he does. I've just got a feeling that it's a bit different this year. And, we'll know in the first round because he's always got off to a bad start in the first round. So if he gets off to a bad start again, then you could be right that he might not have it in him. But I have got a bit of a feeling that this year that he might actually do it. So, and Bill Malik, hi Bill from the States, nice to see you again. Hoping a live golfer wins just so the Golf Channel has to say it. Yeah. Those guys, it should. Bill, please get in the comments because the Golf Channel is an American network, and we do get it over here in the UK, but it is supposed to be an independent sort of broadcaster, isn't it? It's not owned by the PGA Tour, is it? Because they are so pro PGA Tour and anti-live. That Eamon Lynch. Oh my God, that guy absolutely winds me up. I don't mind them coming out with some very good, like what Brandel Chambly is another one. But what Paul McGinley and Brandel Chambly said before, I think that's a fair comment. It's a fair comment that the Live Tour isn't as competitive as the PGA Tour, so that could be a slight disadvantage for the Live golfers. But some of the other stuff that's on the Golf Channel regarding the PGA Tour and Live, I'm surprised that they're allowed to get away with it because as far as unless I've got it wrong, they are a channel that is supposed to report on the world game of golf. They're not a PGA Tour affiliated broadcaster, unless I've got that wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're not. So yeah, you're right. If a live golfer wins, the Golf Channel is going to go into absolute frigging meltdown. It'll be a disaster, and it would be quite funny to see the likes of Eamon Lynch and Brandel Chambly having to, talk about it. It would be quite funny. So, and it is, for me, it is possible. It is possible for sure. So, okay, let's get into the nitty gritty. Please, right now, get into the comments. Who do you think is going to win the US Masters this year? I'm going to tell you who I've gone for. So I've got one who I'm going for as I want one who you're going for as your winner, and then two that you think are your sort of outsiders. Okay. So I'll tell you mine first. So I've gone for Jon Rahm as my winner. And for my outsiders, I've gone for Jason Day and Max Homa, both at 25 to 1. And my best each way bet is I've gone for Brooks Koepka, who, when I put my bet on, I managed to get 50 to 1 on. And that's if he places in the top, I think if he places in the top 10, I get 5th odds. So I'm quite confident that Brooks Koepka can get in the top 10 and I can get a bit of a payout. So yeah, so for me, my winner is Jon Rahm. Please get in the comments. Let me know who you think your winner is going to be. And then tell me who your sort of slight outsiders are. I've gone for Jason Day and Max Homa. And then for your sort of best real outsider on an each way bet, where I've gone for Brooks Koepka, which I probably wouldn't have said was a real outsider, but at 50 to 1, I thought that was just, those odds were just too good to miss, especially with what I spoke about before, that he's saying that he's healthy, he won last week, he's obviously playing well, so I think there's a very good chance that Brooks Koepka is going to get in the top 10 and earn me a little bit of money. And I'll earn a lot of money if he wins, which again would be, fantastic for my bank balance. So I'm going to tell you now my bets that I've gone for. So as I've already said, I've gone for Jason Day. He's actually gone out a little bit. I only got 22 to 1 on him. So I got 22 to 1 on Jason Day. I think Jason Day, I've mentioned it on this podcast before, he's been trending for a while now. He's quite similar to Brooks Koepka. He's been suffering with injuries, but he seems to have got over that. He seems to be healthy. And I think that he has the short game to win. You need to have a good short game. Jason Day's got a phenomenal short game and he's a great putter. And, he hits it long enough to, make hay on the par fives. He's obviously got a good iron game as well. So I think that Jason Day at 22 to 1 offered a little bit of value. So I went for him. I went for Brooks Koepka at 50 to 1. Again, each way. So if he wins, then I'll earn a lot. I think it's over $1,000 if he wins. But even if he places in the top 10, I get a nice payout at those odds. And then I've gone for two more, which I'm sure you can get in the comments here. You might have a bit of a laugh at this because I always want to play some bets where if it comes off, I'm going to win big. Okay. And I just saw Phil Mickelson at 200 to 1 and just thought, that's got to be worth a tenner. That's got to be worth a tenner, hasn't it? No. Yes, there's no rhyme or reason as to why Phil Mickelson is going to win the Masters this year. But he just needs, if he can place in the top 10 at 200 to 1, I'll get a really good payout. A really good payout. So I have put some money on Phil Mickelson at 200 to 1 because I'm just hoping, he's been playing a little bit better on the Live Tour. He's not managed to string 3 good rounds together yet, but he's been putting 1 or 2 good rounds together, which is obviously no good when you're having to play 4 rounds at Augusta. But what I'm saying is there was some shoots of some recovery there, and I'm just, in this bet that I've put on Mickelson, I'm just putting everything on the fact that he's going to get there, and Augusta's just going to raise his game. He's going to get those winning vibes and those good competitive juices going. And if he gets off to a good start, he'll just get a bit of momentum. It's probably going to be 10. I may as well have just thrown £10 straight down the grid, but anyway, or straight down the drain. But I just thought at 200 to 1 as a real outside bet, that was worth a little bit of a punt. So let's get into some of the comments So Kent says golf Bryson course is only a par 67 for him. Yeah, I know he's actually talked about that, hasn't he? With a lot of remorse and regrets ever saying that. I mean, why he said that, because he was just on a hide into nothing as soon as he said it, because, basically if he shot 67, people would just be saying, well, that's level par for you, Bryson. It's a bit of a stupid thing to say. Graham Anderson, nice to see you, Graham. Actually, he's going for Rory to win. Yeah, I know it's an obvious choice with him being joint favourite with Scotty Scheffler, but you can't deny that Rory does seem to have a different approach this year, and he does just look like, for me, that he's going to attend. He's going to contend, a lot more this year. He needs to get off to a good start, though, Graham, for sure. He needs a good round tomorrow. Kent, I'll be doing cartwheels if Phil wins it. Well, you're not the only one, mate. I'll be doing cartwheels down to the bookies to collect me winnings. I mean, he's not going to win it, is he? He's not going to win it. I've got on that bet really in the hope that he's going to make the cut, and then he's going to make it into the top 10, which I'll still, at 200 to 1, I'll still get a nice payout, by the way. So that's why I kind of went for that bet. And the other one I've gone for is a little bit of a nostalgic one, really. Tiger Woods was at 66 to 1. And I think this one was just based on the fact that I just don't put anything past that guy. I just don't put anything past him whatsoever. And again, this is a real outside bet, and it's just in the hope that he might make the cut and he might get into the top 10. I don't for a second think that Tiger Woods is going to win the Masters. But, again, that guy is just so mentally strong, and no one knows that golf course like he does. So if he can get round and walk 4 rounds and, basically just try and keep his game together, then there's an outside chance that he might get into the top 10. And again, I might get a nice little payout. So my bets are Jason Day at 22 to 1, Brooks Koepka at 50 to 1, Tiger Woods at 66 to 1, and Phil Mickelson at 200 to 1. So I'm basically just saying Jason Day is my best bet out of those to actually win it, and the others, Brooks, Tiger, and Phil Mickelson, at the odds they're at, I'm just hoping that they can get into the top 10 and I can get earn some good money each way. So let's get into the comments. Let me know who your winners are going to be. I noticed today that Nick Faldo went for Max Homa. Okay, yeah. Also in the comments, actually Graham's put there as his outsider. Please let me know who your outsiders are. He's gone for Corey Connors. Yeah, I mean, he won, didn't he? He won last week. I suppose some people would say, not many win the week before and then win the Masters. I can remember one person who did do that, which was our very own Sandy Lyle in 1988. He won the tournament before the Masters and won again. So I had back-to-back wins. But that's quite unusual to do that. But, he's obviously playing well. He's long off the tee. I'm not sure what Corey Connors' short game's like. I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but if you haven't got a really razor-sharp short game, this golf course is going to find you out in a hurry. So, yeah, I don't. To be honest with you, I just don't know enough about Corey Connors' all-round game to know whether his short game is, really razor-sharp. I should have a look at his shots gained and see exactly where he's ranking in that category. But, I think Max Homa is a good shout. I mean, he's 25 to 1, so he's not a real outsider. Tony Finau, Tony Finau can definitely win a major for sure. But at 20 to 1, I don't think there's a great deal of value there on Tony Finau. For me to put some money on him, I would have been expecting him to be about 33 to 1 for me to see a bit of value. Xander Schauffele, 22 to 1. Patrick Cantlay at 14 to 1. It's, is Patrick Cantlay going to win a major? I suppose there's no reason why he can't, I suppose, but he's not one that really is the first to spring to mind when I think about major winners. Sam Burns, he's been playing well recently. He could be a good each way bet. In fact, let me just see. Let me just go and get the odds up here. I should be able to do it. Just bear with me. Because now I've just said it, Sam Burns actually should be a good bet, shouldn't he? Here we go. So, US Masters. So they'll place down to the bookies I'm on here, which is Paddy Power. They place down to 10th place, which is really good. So let's have a look. Cameron Smith 25 to 1. Jason Day's gone out to 25 to 1, so I put my bet on too early. I only got 22 to 1 there. Cameron Young. Yeah, never thought of him. 28 to 1. Shane Lowry, without doubt, has got the short game for Augusta National. I just don't think he's in form. He's not been playing, or he's not been really featuring in any of the tournaments this year that I can remember. But his short game is without doubt good enough. Victor Hovland, I think the reverse is true. I think everyone knows that Victor's short game isn't the best, and I think that's always going to hold him back at Augusta National. Will Zalatoris, I mean, his record at Augusta National is unbelievable. Not really, no one's been talking about him, but he's been out with the injury layoff for a long time, hasn't he, with his back? So nobody kind of knows where he is. Sam Burns 40 to 1. So there's definitely some value there if you think that Sam Burns can get into the top 10. Tommy Fleetwood at 40 to 1. I mean, we've got Tommy Fleetwood comes from the golf course where I grew up playing, so always got a bit of a nostalgic view for Tommy. Would love him to win. It's hard to understand how someone who hits it as well as Tommy Fleetwood does, even all the pros wax lyrical about Tommy Fleetwood's ball striking. I mean, he is an absolute flusher for sure. But the longer he goes without winning a PGA Tour event or a major, kind of just makes me think that he's going to possibly be this generation's Colin Montgomery, Lee Westwood, and always come close to winning a major, because he came second in the US Open and he came second in the Open. But, just doesn't ever get over the line. And the longer that goes on, as soon as you get that tag of best player in the world never to win a major, then the pressure just ramps up even more. So, but yeah, I'd love to see Tommy win for sure. Corey Connors is also 40 to 1, Graham. If you fancy that bet, you said there that you fancy him as an outsider. He's got a good chance getting top 10. You get fifth odds if he gets in the top 10. Justin Rose, I don't think so. I just don't think Justin's been playing well enough. Patrick Reed's 50 to 1, Patrick Reed played well last week in Orlando in the live event, and he is a proper competitor. I wouldn't write him off. I think there's some value there, at 50 to 1. Tyrrell Hatton at 50 to 1 as well. Not spoken about him. Tyrrell's definitely some value there for Tyrrell at 50 to 1. Now we're starting to get into the real outsiders. Joaquin Niemann, super talented player, but not started the season on live particularly well. He came out he did an interview with Golf Digest that I saw where he was, it was at Die Preserve as well, which is the course I played when I was out in Jupiter. I recognised it in the background. He's a member there. His golf bag's in the clubhouse. In fact, a lot of the live golfers are members at Die Preserve down in Jupiter. When you walk into the pro shop, all of their tour bags are on the top shelf with all their names on and stuff. And there's a load of really top LPGA Tour players. And there's some PGA Tour players there as well. Daniel Berger was there and a few others. But it's quite impressive when you walk in, you see all their names on the bags there. So yeah, he was bigging it up, saying how much he'd love a live golfer to win, and he was saying it's because they all hate us. Well, I don't think they do hate you, Joachim. I don't know about you guys, but I was actually quite encouraged to see how warmly the live golfers greeted the PGA Tour players and vice versa. John Rahm was absolutely delighted to see Sergio Garcia. They're big pals and they've been pals for a long time. And there was loads of other instances as well where you just saw it. And, the Champions Dinner that everyone was saying was going to be a horrible, tense affair. And all reports are it was nothing of the sort. I think the media are blowing all of that up quite a lot, to be honest. Seamus Power at 80-1. He's just had 2 hole-in-ones, and he had consecutive hole-in-ones in the par 3 tournament. Absolutely nuts. And now we're getting into the real outsiders. Bryson DeChambeau, 100-1. I just don't think Bryson's body is allowing him to play to his best yet. He's been struggling ever since he had that wrist surgery. Sergio Garcia, again, I don't think his form's good enough. Keegan Bradley, no. Danny Willett, 125-1. Yeah, I mean, actually, I can't remember seeing Danny contending much so far this year, so probably not. Then you get into the real outsiders down here. There's Phil Mickelson at 200-1. And then, there's a lot of who's getting to like real sort of outsiders here. So the likes of Scott Stallings, 300-1, Seb Straka, Kevin Na. So, but yeah, I think Corey Connors at 40-1 definitely offers a bit of value. But I would say if anyone out there is looking for the best each way bet available at the moment, I would suggest going for Brooks Koepka. I just think that I got 50-1. He's still at 40-1 now. He's playing well. He's a major winner. He's not afraid. He doesn't back off when he gets into the heat of battle in a major. He's done it before. He's healthy. He's obviously playing well. His confidence is up. He's done well at Augusta before, the year that Tiger won in 2019. He was right in there with a chance to win. So, that wasn't that long ago, was it? So, yeah, I would say if you're looking to have just a little cheeky each way bet, I would say that Brooks Koepka is probably the best bet at the odds that he's at the moment. But they all need to get off to a good start. Okay, so we'll leave it there for this week. It's a bit of a shorter podcast, obviously, because we're just talking about one thing. I'm going to nail my colours to the mast. I am going to go for Jon Rahm to win. Obviously, I put my money on Jason Day because I was looking for a little bit of extra value. So I'm going to stick to my guns there as well. I think Jason Day's got a great chance of winning. Rory's definitely going to be up there. Scotty he's so consistent. He never seems to have a really bad round. So I think he's going to definitely be up there. But I hope that there is a good mix of PGA Tour and Live golfers on the first page of the leaderboard, because it's going to just make it even more intriguing and even more exciting to see the buzz that kind of creates. And I think that would be a good thing for Rory McIlroy, because that is the one thing that seems to really, really motivate him. Whenever he seems to see a Live golfer getting near to the top of the leaderboard, it certainly happened with Patrick Reed in Dubai. It seems to really drive Rory McIlroy on. So if Live golfers are actually doing well and Rory's in the mix as well, I think that bodes well for Rory to actually get over the line and win it this year. I actually hadn't thought about that until I said it. I think that he could be it could be his best chance to win for multiple reasons. His attitude, his form, and his motivation to make sure that a Live golfer doesn't win and he actually goes on and wins it. So that's it for this week. Kent, yes, I've seen your comment there. So Kent played my home golf course today. Yeah, it won't. It's very early in the season, Kent. In like another 2 or 3 weeks with the weather that we've got coming, it will come on in leaps and bounds. And obviously, the new holes that have just been done need a lot of time to bed in. and recover from all of the work that was done on them. So don't be too. He says he's sad because it's one of his favourite courses. Don't be sad. It's just too early in the year. Come back in 6 to 8 weeks, and it'll be absolutely rocking and rolling. But yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm playing in the competition on Saturday, and I know that the course not being in its best condition yet is going to make it even harder for me to put a good score together. But I'm not going to use that as an excuse. I'm going to do my best and just see what we come out with. But it's always struggles, at this time of year. If we've had a very wet winter, and it was the wettest March on record. So anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here because Kent's played my home golf course today, but it'll be absolutely fine. It just needs a bit of dry weather and a bit of warmth. So okay, Bill had to do some work. Still working hours here in the USA. I know it's difficult, Bill, to do this, to find the right time for these podcasts, because it needs to be so it's not too, because the demographic of my viewers is mainly, the biggest is in America, then it's the UK, and then there's some European countries. So obviously the European countries are an hour or 2 hours ahead, so for them it starts at 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night, so it's getting quite late. 9 p.m. is quite a good time for the UK. But then obviously in America on the Eastern time, they're 5 hours. And then if you go into any further west than that, then obviously it's getting a lot worse. So it's very difficult to get the right time for everyone who watches the channel from the different places they are in the world. It still blows my mind that, when I look at the list of all the people's countries that watch the videos, I just think YouTube is an amazing thing for that. So always have to try and basically do the best timings for all of the countries I can. And with most of my 50% of my viewers are in America, but to do it at the right time for the American audience, I'd have to do it at 2 o'clock in the morning in the UK, which I am fast asleep at that time. I can absolutely guarantee you that. So it's a bit of a tricky one. But Bill, I always appreciate you taking the time in your working day to tune into the podcast. Thank you very much for doing that. It's very much appreciated. Okay, so next Tuesday we'll be back to the golf week that was, where we'll be looking back at the US Masters. We'll see how all of my bets did. You can tell me who, I'll make a note of who's gone for who here. So Graham's gone for Rory to win, and he's gone for Corey Connors as an outsider. We'll see how Graham gets on with that. And yeah, we'll talk about, what's gone on in the Masters this week. It all starts tomorrow. It's very exciting. It's an amazing sporting event, never mind a golfing event. It's one of the biggest sporting events in the world. So I can't wait to start watching it tomorrow, and I'm obviously hoping that Jason Day and Brooks Koepka do really well, and just on the wing and a prayer that Phil Mickelson can rediscover his magic and get in the top 10 and earn me some big money this week. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Like I say, keep an eye out for the video coming tomorrow on the golf ball review. It's a really surprising results from a new premium golf ball from a brand that you've never heard of, but I was absolutely astonished at this golf ball's performance. Really took me by surprise. So that's going live tomorrow at 1 p.m. GMT. So that will be sort of 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time in the States. And then later in April, I've got these 2 new series coming. I'm going to be filming them very soon. Like I say, I don't think that these ideas have been done on YouTube before. So I really hope it's going to work. I really hope you're going to like it. I'm always trying to do something different. I just think that a lot of people in the golf YouTube world are all doing the same thing, and it's a little bit monotonous, and I want to try and push the envelope and try and do things a little bit differently if I can. Okay, brilliant. Thanks for your time. Enjoy watching the Masters. If you're playing golf this weekend, hope it goes well. Hope the sun shines, which it looks like it is here in the UK. We've got really good weather forecast for the Easter weekend. So even if the golf course isn't the greatest and I don't play my best and I don't do a great score on Saturday, at least the sun will be shining and I can sit outside the clubhouse and have a nice few beers afterwards. Okay, take it easy and I'll speak to you very soon from this chair in a week's time and in my video that is going live tomorrow.